Well, welcome to the Writer's Mindset with myself, Yvonne Redden, and I'm going to be chatting to a variety of storytellers and authors to find out what motivates and inspires a writer. And is it a particular mindset that you can develop, or are writers born with this gift of storytelling? And today I'm delighted to have journalist, broadcaster, and now #1 selling author in Ireland, Edel Coffey. And if you haven't heard of Edel's book by now, you will by the end of this video for sure. Edel, thanks for your time and thanks for coming along today.
Thank you for having me.
Are you on cloud nine?
I am, and hearing you say something like that, I'll have to stop doing that ridiculous face, because when somebody says #1 best-selling author, I'm like, oh.
And the Apple, I think #1 on the Apple list as well.
Oh, I don't know. No, like, no, let's not go overboard, Yvonne. I'm not sure if it's #1 on Apple too.
Listen to me. You're going to be known all over Ireland if you haven't already. It's fabulous. Congratulations as well. It's fabulous. We're going to talk about your book as well. But the questions in this series is all about the writing process. And I use the 5 W's of writing, which you're familiar with your journalist background. So I'm going to begin with who. Who has been influential in your writing career?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I think there's a few stages. So, like when you're a child, I wanted to be a writer for my whole life. So, when I was a child, I loved reading and I kind of always wanted to write my own stories, and I used to try to, and I'm sure they were awful, but I think teachers played a big part in that sort of early part of encouraging me to become a writer, or at least sort of giving me the encouragement to persist with my interest in writing. So, like, there were teachers even in primary school who encouraged me. In fact, one of my teachers texted into Ryan Tubridy when I was on the show a few weeks ago, and it was really nice to hear from her. But I think, in school as well, I really was very good at what I was interested in, and I think a lot of kids are like this. And if I had no interest in the subject, it was just like disaster. But in secondary, then I had a teacher, had a few really good English teachers, Mr. Malone, Sister Thea Fain, and Miss Keane, who all really encouraged my interest in writing. I remember having a story read out in the class once, and the story was like inspired by Agatha Christie. I'd got some Agatha Christie books from the library, and I was like, this is brilliant, oh my God. And I'd written a huge story in that style, and he read it out for the class. Now, I'm sure the class all hated me. We're like, the story is so boring, can't believe we have to listen to it. But for me, that was like, oh, maybe it's not awful, or maybe I can do this, or maybe I'm good at this. And the same with the other teachers. So early on, yes, that for sure. Then later in my writing career, actually, I think that my agent, Marianne Gunn O'Connor, is a kind of sort of fairy godmother figure in my life, because I had never met her before. I had interviewed her once on the phone for an article I was writing, and I emailed her to thank her, or to set up the time or something like that, just a very perfunctory professional email. And she emailed back and said something like, if you ever think about writing a book, contact me. And that would be like 20 years ago, probably now, or not 20 years, but maybe 15, And I always kind of kept that in my head. It was like this little bit of encouragement in my head. So I would describe her as actually influential, because the fact that someone like her had said that to me, in my mind, meant that I had some sort of potential, or that she saw some sort of potential, even in just my journalism, So I would say she was very influential. There were other people like who were just so kind as well. There were publicists who I was always writing about books. I was like, I'm going to get there eventually. I was just always kind of put myself in the sort of area that I loved, which was books and fiction and writing. And publicists that I would work with, who publicized books while I was writing about them for the newspaper, they would say things like, oh, there's an editor coming to town, and from this publisher, and you should meet them, because they knew I was interested in writing.
Great encouragement, isn't it? It's that encouragement that you don't have that belief in yourself sometimes.
Never. And like, even when I had written the book, Yvonne, I still didn't, I still don't now, it's weird. It's a great vote of confidence to have people buy your book and say that they enjoyed it, but there's still, I don't know if it's just, it is just a writer's thing, because everybody says it. You always have that thing in your head that you're not very good and this is not
Yeah,
very good and people are going to laugh at you and humiliate you. And that's a very powerful voice, you know. So to get
yeah.
any form of encouragement from anybody is, it's actually essential to going on, I think.
Because it's difficult, I think, as well. I mean, your background is journalism. You've written like for years. How do you go from being a journalist to being an author? I mean, that's a huge step, isn't it? I mean, I know you have all the research skills, you've got the writing skills, but it's different when you go to write a novel, isn't it, Adele? I mean, I don't know, but I believe I'd imagine it is.
I'm going to say no because,
Okay,
like,
great. There's hope for me,
obviously,
yes.
yeah, I really don't think, in my experience anyway, which is very small, I don't feel like there's a huge difference. I think writing is writing. I think fiction is harder because, you know, you have to kind of go through an imaginative process, whereas with
Yeah,
journalism, you're
factual. Yeah.
yeah, it's very functional. It's very it's just reporting, but at the same time, there's a creative process in how you
Yeah.
put the piece together, obviously. But you have all the information.
Yes.
Whereas with fiction, you're making a lot of it up, you're imagining a lot of it. But I
Mm,
didn't find that process so difficult.
mm,
I don't want to sound like a bit woo woo here or anything, but I really liked that sinking into characters and sinking into stories and just imagining exactly what you would do in that situation or trying to imagine
yeah.
yourselves into their lives. And
Yeah.
I really liked that, but I didn't find it a big leap, I don't think.
No,
I think
because your two
writing is
characters in
writing.
the book, I mean, one of them obviously is a busy mother. She's an author. I mean, that bears,
Not based on anyone.
you know, it's kind of, and then the other character, Gold, the
Adelaide, yeah.
Adelaide is a journalist. So, you know, I mean, you can bring all of what you know into the two characters as well, which helps. So the two characters are very similar to your own kind of life as well, you
Yeah,
know.
they are and they aren't. Like, obviously, they're made up, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you know, I think writing about what you know, as people
Yes.
say, is it does give a certain level of authenticity to your characters and to your scenes
Yeah.
because, you know, if you've experienced certain things, you can layer them into your character, and they might not necessarily be your personal experience, but
Yeah.
there's definitely lots of scenes in there that I would have mined my own life for, like all the
Mm,
newsroom scenes. Like, I've never had those conversations
yeah.
or, you know, specifically, but I would have had variations of those conversations. I would have, you know, seen those conversations maybe happening. And
Yeah.
also, the other thing is, you know, from working in newsrooms, a lot of the things that happen in newsrooms, if you wrote them in a book, nobody would believe you.
You know, grabbing the first, you know, the eyewitness and hiding her away so nobody gets her, and like, yeah, you know, it's very competitive industry,
It's
isn't it?
competitive, yeah.
Yeah, but look, it's fabulous. I loved all the language that I understood it anyway from the journalism side,
Oh,
and
good.
like your genre of writing. I mean, it's obviously this is your first book. There's going to be many, I'm sure.
I hope so.
You can you could put a particular genre on your writing?
Yes, because my publisher put a
Yeah.
particular genre on it,
And it's
so
funny
I know
because
what it is.
Emer McLeisa said the same, that you have to put a genre on the Ashleen series, the books as well. And
Yeah.
what genre did your agent say?
So they described it to me as literary crossover
Yeah.
book club fiction.
Okay.
So that's what genre I am officially. But I never expected to write this kind of book actually, and I was really interested to see people describe it as a thriller, which is amazing to me, and I'm delighted with that, obviously. But
Yeah.
it's funny. I think a lot of the what style you are is in the eye of the beholder. It's the reader
Yeah.
decides, don't they?
Yeah.
But I think my style of writing, like if you had asked me 5 years ago, Edel, you're going to write a book, what book is it going to be? What kind of book is it going to be? I would have said it would be a very sort of thoughtful, slow, quiet, Booker Prize winning novel.
Okay.
And I think so much of what we write is just formed by what we can do at that point in our lives.
Mm,
And, you know, so when I was writing this book, my life, and it still is, incredibly busy, incredibly pressurized, so much to do,
yeah.
never ending list, just like the people in the book.
And let's bring
But
it in because obviously the book is called Breaking Point. I mean, if anyone hasn't heard of it now, they will by the end of this video. So, and it is, I mean, it's true. I love the cover. It's fabulous. Breaking Point is about two well, the main lady, Dr. Sue, you know, who a terrible incident happens. And I don't know whether it's like the second part, the second chapter, the last paragraph, I had to put it down. I found
Like,
that
what
incredibly
says that?
difficult.
I'm
I
so
wondered,
sorry.
I know, do you want to read it out or will I read? It's only a couple of lines. It's very powerful, Edel. I
I've
have it
never
here.
read it out
Will I
loud.
read
You
it?
read it.
Now, I know people will probably know the content of this. I just found this incredibly hard because you're a mother as well. But I'm just going to read it. It's only a few lines. Despite what Susanna saw, despite all the evidence her eyes were feeding to her brain, she unbuckled Louise, laid her on the asphalt and started to perform CPR. Louise was lifeless, her face scratched, her scalp bloodied in patches from her tiny fingers, grasping for life. Edel,
I'm
I
sorry.
went to bed. I mean, I've gone on and read more chapters, but it just encapsulates that whole vision, you know, and I wonder why you picked the US. Is it because this is a very common that can happen, this kind of an event?
It happens a lot in America, and also I wanted to set the book in a world that was slightly more pressurized than ours. Like,
Yeah,
I know our lives are very pressurized, but in America, there's no maternity benefit, for example. We have
yeah,
decent maternity benefit here. Also, that work culture in America is just like another notch or two more pressurized. It's, you
it's
know, there's so
crazy.
few holidays,
Mm,
so little time off. Work comes first,
yeah,
life comes second, family comes second,
yeah.
you know. And I just thought that was the place to set it for those reasons.
Mm.
So
You know, and
so
it's about
yeah.
stressed working parents, you know, being pushed to their absolute limits. I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, I probably should have explained, but the child was being left in the car and it was extreme heat in New York. And that is a tragic accident happened, unfolded for
Yeah,
Dr.
and it
Sue.
happens because she's so
Yeah,
busy and she's so distracted
yeah,
and she's trying to do everything, as we all are. And like,
yes,
we don't have to be at the level that she's at now.
yeah,
She's really successful and really
yeah.
famous and rich and beautiful,
Mm.
but she still, you know, is just a person who you
Human.
can't do everything, you know.
Mm.
And I
Exactly.
just wanted to look at that idea of, you know, making one tiny mistake in your day and how catastrophic that can be for your
Yeah.
life, you know. So.
Mm, it's fabulous. But, and when you write your book, when you wrote your book, how long did it take you to write your book? From when you get the idea to when you actually start writing your draft, your manuscript? How long did that process take?
Like, that was a long process. Like, I
Yeah,
had the idea for a good while before I started
yeah,
writing. Like, I'd say probably 2015, 2016, I was thinking, oh, I want to write a
right.
book about this kind of pressure.
Yeah,
And then 2017, I think I heard that news story or read that news story about the baby being left in the car. And, you know, I don't think I really started writing. I think I wrote it in the year 2019.
yeah.
Because when I sent it to the agent in January 2020,
Mm.
and I sent it out of a sense of frustration and desperation that I'd been writing this thing for a year, and I just thought, oh, I
What
needed
do I
just
need to do next? Give me some, yeah,
I needed some external
yeah,
motivation, you know, because you're doing it on your own and you've no
yeah,
idea if it's really bad or if it's really good, and you're in
yeah.
this bubble. So yeah, I remember sending it to her at that point because I think it would have been like a year since I'd been
Mm.
writing it, and I was like, I'm going to be here in another year's time, and I just can't let that happen. This is
It goes in the
ridiculous.
drawer, and I'm sure there's lots of moms, and they put their
Yeah,
books in the drawer, their manuscript there, and they leave them there, and it could be an incredible story waiting to come out. And
of course.
Sphere is your publishers as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so a big UK publisher, which I
yeah,
was amazed, delighted that we got that deal with them. You know, my goal was to write a book and to get it published in Ireland.
yeah.
I didn't think that we'd get it published outside of Ireland, and I'm
And
just
further,
amazed.
it'll go further than that. You know that
Yeah,
yourself. Definitely the US market as well. And
hopefully.
did you find a lot? Do you have a location at home? You're based in Galway, beautiful surrounding area there. Do you have a nice little space that you write yourself? Do you need that kind of quiet space?
Well, I'm in it at the moment, but I
Yeah,
don't need it because I used to think I needed a perfect little space. I used to think I needed 4 or 5 hours of silence, continuous hours. Um, but when I started to get afraid that I would never achieve my dream, I just thought, you're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to do it within the parameters that you have now, which are
Yeah.
loads of children,
Yeah.
loads of responsibilities, and you're just going to have to find time
Yeah.
outside of those responsibilities, which was in my car.
Right.
And also, for anyone who's trying to do this,
Mm.
in the library, I used to go to the library because there's no washing machine in the library. There's no dirty dishes in the library. There's no Hoover in the library. So you cannot, like, I was terrible. I'd come home and say, okay, I'm going to do half an hour of writing. And then I'd be
Then
like,
you're
but
thinking in your head, well,
I'll
I
just
need to
wash the
get,
dishes,
yeah, yeah,
and I'll just make the dinner, and I'll get
yeah,
that out of the way. And then you kind of, you lose momentum. So like
yeah.
my thing now is like, so I used to do that. I'd go even for half an hour, and you'd get lots done actually. That's
Mm.
the other thing. It's really surprising. If you think that you need a lot of time to do it, you don't. You just need to sit down and like just start typing, and you'll be amazed how much, or even just open your notebook and you'll be
Yeah.
amazed how much ideas come or whatever. But yeah,
You
so I
do need
don't,
that space, though. You do need that. And
well,
do you
like
find that you're better? Yeah. And like,
ideally you'd have a lovely room, and you'd have like
of
5 hours
course,
of
of course.
silence,
Yeah.
and you'd be uninterrupted.
Yeah. I know,
But
but
that just doesn't
not in the
happen.
real world when you're a mom.
No.
And it's like, do you prefer to write in the morning? I think the morning's a better time, but I don't know about you, but I have I keep saying to myself every morning, Edel, I'm going to get up at 6:30. So I
No.
have that hour before I get the kids ready for school. But if I get up and tiptoe around, I've twins, the little boy will be up and he'll be beside me. So I'll be getting up earlier for nothing really. I have to
Can I
find,
just can I describe to you, a friend of mine explained to me what this is, and we now call our youngest daughter Bluetooth, because if you set your alarm for 5 a.m. and if you even open your eyes, it's like she's powered on
it's
and will
mad.
just wake up.
Yeah,
So then your day is just like 3 hours longer, and you've got
yeah,
nothing done,
I
and your child is
know.
cranky because they woke
Yeah,
up so early.
yeah,
So
I
no, I do
know.
not do it in the
No,
morning,
it
and I
doesn't
try
work
to avoid
because
it.
I know Paul Howard gets up at 5 o'clock, and he
Paul
writes.
Howard is an old neighbour of mine. We grew up in the same area called Ballybrack in
I'm from
Dublin.
Ballybrack as well, Edel.
What?
Oh my God! Right, we're going to take this offside
We'll
afterwards.
take this offline.
We're going to get sidetracked.
Okay.
So the best time is the morning. Is the morning? I think kind of whenever you can grab it.
After the school run is the best
Yeah,
time for me. I come
yeah,
home and I'll sit down for an hour because it's very quiet. Nobody's ringing you at that time either.
yeah.
And then like, I don't do very long because I have to get other stuff done, obviously. So
Absolutely.
if I can do 9 to 11, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then if I'm picking up the kids, I'll do
Mm.
20 minutes
But
in the
it's
car.
having that, I think it's good to kind of say in your head, right, I'm going to write for 2 hours. I think you have to be very strict on yourself. If you
Yeah,
want to get something done, like your book, you wanted to get it done,
yeah.
I think you have to be
Yeah.
very strict on yourself.
I stopped all the stuff. I
Yeah,
stopped having coffees,
yeah,
which I really missed. Like, I stopped doing all the nice things. Like
yeah,
there was no pottering around shops. There was no meeting people for coffees after the school
yeah.
run. Um, and that was kind of hard because I think a lot of like my pals probably thought like where has she gone? Have we been
You have to
done for?
hibernate kind of nearly, haven't you?
Yeah, you just
Mm.
have to like say like this is all the time
I
I
want
have,
it
and this is
done.
what I'm going to
Yeah,
do in it.
yeah.
And there will be a future where, you will be able to go for coffees again,
And
you know?
the coffee will change to champagne because obviously we're going to be celebrating the huge, the celebrity status of this book. This book's going to go through the roof. And
So
why do you write? Do you love it, or do you think that you can learn this craft, or do you think that I mean, you said yourself it's down from when you were younger. I've always
yeah,
loved Enid Blyton as well. I've always read books. I don't get enough time to read at the minute,
no, of
but
course not.
I think I love stories as well. What do you think yourself? Do you think that you can craft this particular writing?
I think you can
Mm,
learn or be taught it. I certainly think everyone can get better, but I do think that my love of writing is innate
yeah,
almost, because writing is my response to everything, Yvonne. Like if something
mm,
bad happens, if something good happens, I
yeah,
sit down and I write about it and I keep a journal, a
yeah,
diary. It's very embarrassing. But if I'm upset about
yeah.
something, I write about it,
I
and I
find
write
that
about
as
it.
well. Mm,
It's just my natural response to anything, and I
mm,
do think that I write to try and understand things and to work things out.
yeah,
And also, it's interesting if in my journalism, if I'm doing a column and I'm stuck, I will stop writing on the computer. I will open a notebook and I'll write,
yeah,
and I can figure things out that way much better than on the computer.
yeah,
It's strange. It's
yeah.
like that. putting pen to paper really
Yeah.
changes your way of thinking. So for me, that's why I write. Oh, I want to understand life,
Mhm.
and it's only through writing that I can do that, I
I know
think.
I've notepads everywhere. I mean, I do love. Do you use a Kindle as well? But there's
I
nothing.
do,
I
yeah.
tell you, there's nothing as nice when I got that in the post yesterday. You know, this
No.
is another one that I'm reading as well by an Australian author. She's fabulous, Robin Fleming. Isn't that beautiful? The
I
cover.
haven't, that's a gorgeous cover. I haven't read that one.
This is a memoir. It's fabulous. I
Mm.
interviewed her last week.
Addiction,
It's called Skinful, a memoir of addiction. So
alcohol
she was.
addiction.
You'll have to look it up. Fabulous. It's beautiful. Robin Fleming. She's fabulous. Um, I just love a hard copy. I just, my friend says to me,
Oh,
what do you
my,
want for your, yeah,
absolutely.
I
My preference
Kindle,
is
yeah, my
for a
preference is
book.
this as well. I love it. I have to say, it's
I
just
have
something
the
about it.
Kindle for
The smell
for
and all. I'm smelling it and everything.
you're the first person I've seen smelling my book, apart from me, obviously.
I love the feel of it and the smell. It's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
I love the Kindle for insomniac reading though, because you can
Oh
wake
yeah,
up and
yeah.
it's bright, but it won't wake up
I
your
know. I must
partner.
get one actually. I must try it. Is there any advice that you can give to new and emerging writers that you wish someone maybe had told you?
Yes, if I could grab every
Yeah,
emerging hopeful writer and shake them and throttle them and tell them, don't try to be perfect and don't wait to start and don't
yeah,
wait for perfect conditions. Start now because you know
yeah,
what? We're
yeah,
only getting older. And I got such a shock when I had children. Because I always assumed in that really just like, well, I write and I'm going to write a novel one day. And then I was like, had babies,
yeah.
place was really busy, life is really busy. And I
You're
just thought,
wrecked. Mhm.
I actually might not ever write. And I was waiting as well, Yvonne. I was
Yeah,
waiting for things to be perfect. I was waiting for my draft to be perfect. Like, don't wait for things to be perfect. The state of the draft that I sent to my agent, and she saw they can see potential.
mm,
They can see if a story is worth telling, and it
yeah,
doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be
yeah,
finished. And stop, obviously you want them
mm,
to see the potential. So
yeah.
I'm not saying send
You see,
any
what if
old
they don't have an
rubbish.
agent though? What do people do? So there's a lot of self-published writers as well that have these amazing drafts. And it is like there is lots of like Vanessa Fox's,
She's an
writing.ie.
inspiration.
She's amazing and she's so approachable. She has
Yeah.
everything on that site that we need, that you
Because
need
I
to start
send I
writing.
send so many
Yeah,
people, like friends of mine, people
so
I
do
don't know
I.
come to
Yeah.
me and ask me for advice, and I say writing.ie.
Writing.ie. That's it.
It has, it's an encyclopedia, and it has the most specific
Yeah.
uh like articles. Like if you're like, how do I publish this very specific type of book
Yeah.
in this
Mm,
territory, you'll find it there. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. She's been doing it for years. She
Oh,
has a
she's
huge back
brilliant.
catalogue, and she's a number one best-selling author.
And she
So
is.
she
And
knows what you're talking
she
about.
does. And she's so helpful as well, And I think you can put up your own little stories as well up there too. So even just seeing that starts a writer too. But so even competitions, getting your stories up there so you see it, I think that can help
Yeah.
a writer too, maybe to see that
Yeah,
they
I
can
don't
do
know
it.
about competitions, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
think I think they're very competitive,
Mm,
and also I think they can be there's so many entries to competitions that I think you can just be really good and not make it. And I
okay.
think that can
Yeah.
really knock your confidence.
Yeah.
I think you think, well, I'm clearly not good enough to be a writer. And
Mm,
I just think that's not, if you feel like that, if you're entering competitions, you feel like that, don't let that knock your
mm,
confidence. It's got nothing to do with
yeah.
anything. Like, just because you don't win a competition, I've never won a competition in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
and I've
great to
been
know.
rejected for loads of things. And I
And
just
ask
feel like
people. I mean, even look at
stop you.
yourself. I think even ask people that you admire. The people are
100%.
people do come back to you. I mean, I do be shocked
Yeah.
sometimes, but people don't mind helping
No,
another
they
right.
don't.
I don't
And
think they do.
also, like, yeah, and that's the thing. Ask, and
Mm,
nobody's different. I don't think, like,
mm,
I really think that everybody is the same. If you're a writer, like, nobody's thinking, well, I'm this big
yeah,
writer and you're a little writer and we're not going to talk. I think everybody's very collegial,
yeah,
in that way. Like, even the response that I've had to the book, like, so many writers that I personally really admire have been like, so sort of nice and just like, oh, well done, and just
And
really
you're
kind
like
of
they're surprised, but it's a wonderful
shocked,
book,
you know.
Edel. It's amazing. And can are you reading anything at the moment? Or are you just too mad busy with the promotion and everything that's
I'm
going on?
reading loads of stuff. I'm always reading.
Okay, what are you reading?
I am, well, I'm reading, I have them here because I've
Great.
come prepared. So I'm reading this. I'm very lucky to be reading,
Oh, wow.
again, Rachel by Marion
Yeah,
Keyes. Now, this is,
fabulous.
Yvonne, this is what happens when you're as successful as Marion Keyes. You get a hardback proof of your book. Isn't
Oh
that
my
beautiful?
God.
Look at
Look
that.
at the side. Many pages is in that,
Oh my
Edel. Oh my
Well,
God.
now I think Marion Keyes fans, if it's not 600 pages, you feel a bit cheated because
Wow.
you want it to be big and you want to stay in it for as long as you can.
Yeah.
So I'm reading that. I'm actually reading that for work. I have to review it, but I'm absolutely loving it. And I like fans. I'm a huge fan of Marion Keyes.
Yeah. Oh
Anyone who
God, she's
loves her
wonderful. She's
would
gorgeous.
just be delighted that this is the sequel to Rachel's
I
Holiday.
know. I loved it. I loved Watermelon as well. It was one of my favorites.
Oh, gorgeous! Like all her books are just
They're beautiful. You
fantastic.
can just relate so much to it as a woman. What else are you reading?
So the day that's in it,
Yeah.
Nora by Nuala O'Connor,
Yeah.
which is it's about Nora from
I've seen it. I've heard of it.
not
Yeah.
from
A
Ulysses, but
couple of
yeah.
people have mentioned it. Yeah.
So that's by Nuala O'Connor. She's a brilliant writer, and
Yeah.
she's actually like she is a Joyce scholar, and she's just fantastic. And this is all about Nora Barnacle,
Yeah.
and her love affair with
Yeah.
James Joyce.
James Joyce. Yeah.
And the other thing I have is I'm such a journalism nerd. Like I love it. This one I'm reading, Robert A. Caro, Working. It's kind of memoir about
Mm,
his process. I
mm,
love books about process. It's
mm.
so fascinating,
Yeah.
and like it even has pictures in here of
Oh my
the
God.
writing and
Oh
all the
wow.
scribbles.
Yeah, brilliant.
And gorgeous. If you're a writing nerd, if
Yeah.
you're a journalism nerd, you'll love it.
Oh great.
And he talks a lot about researching and all that sort of stuff.
Gorgeous.
And this one by Brian Dillon, Suppose a Sentence. Now this is the other end of the spectrum altogether. This is he's just I'm going to read it here because it actually puts it most succinctly.
Yeah.
It's an exercise in practical criticism and a set of experiments or challenges, a polemical and personal reflection on the art of the sentence in literature.
Oh
I love reading about writing. I
yeah.
love reading about
And
process.
about, I know some people think sentences have to be really long because I do like copywriting, so I do, proofreading. Sometimes a sentence can be just one word, and I think I always say that it doesn't have to be like 3 lines. Just chop it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a big subscriber to clarity. I
Yeah,
love Joan Didion. I love Janet Malcolm. I think it takes way more skill, Yvonne, to write a simple sentence
yeah,
and express what you're trying to say
in that
than
sentence.
it does with like a 3 paragraph. Well, what's that famous saying? I would have written a short letter, but I didn't have the time. So you've written a long letter because it actually takes a lot more skill and effort and time
Take
to.
all the junk out of that and just condense it down, and it's a nicer paragraph or a sentence. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Oh, I know.
it's lovely to read
Yeah.
such like that pure, clear prose. I love it.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Now, where
That's
can
on
people
my
find
bedside
you?
locker.
Brilliant. And I love your book recommendation video as well. I've seen on YouTube. It's brilliant. Yeah, I wrote down a few little things on that as well, especially
Oh,
the philosophy.
I love Elizabeth
I
Day.
know that sounded lovely and small because I don't have much time to read. I like short story stuff as well. The other lady's book you mentioned as well in that too. Was it Sinead? Her book. I can't think of the name of it. It's a collection of
Sinead
short
Gleeson?
stories.
Was it Sinead Gleeson?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. The short stories, the 100 Irish
Yeah.
short stories. That's brilliant because you can dip in and out, you see. You just
That's
read
it.
one
I
book
love
the
books
whole
like that
day.
because I don't have time. Yeah. But look, I have time to read yours.
Well, it's very fast, apparently. You read it in one go.
And I love the way your chapters are not too long. Sometimes I get fed up with long chapters. They're nice and short. So you
I
go,
was
okay,
in
I'll
the
do another
car.
chapter.
They had to be
Yeah.
short. I
Yeah, it's
was
great.
trying
I
to kind
like
of.
that. That's another good tip to do, shorter chapters. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh,
Everywhere at the moment.
I know, God. It's like, please don't unfollow me. It's just
Not
like a
at all. It's brilliant.
splurge, splurge of advertising. But yes, I love Instagram. That's my favorite platform. So
Yeah.
I'm just at Edel Coffey on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter at
Mm.
Edel Coffey. I don't even know my own address on Facebook, but it's if you look for me, you'll find me there.
Yeah.
But I tend not to be there. I
Yeah.
tend to be on Instagram and Twitter. So
Brilliant. So that's where they can find you, and your book can be found everywhere. And not in all your social media handles, you have the link for your book as well, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's in all good bookshops, as they
Yes.
say. But you'll
That,
find it in Eason's and
yeah.
Debray, and it's in
Yeah.
Hodges. But it's all over the country. It's in
It's in
independent
every
bookstores.
window that I've gone past, Edel.
That's because I've been in there rearranging.
And now I can put it in my window. Woohoo!
Thank
Edel,
you,
Edel,
Yvonne.
thanks very much for your time. I know you're mad busy. I really
No, it's my
appreciate this
pleasure.
chat. It's lovely to see how you do it and your process, and that's what I find interesting. I want to share with everybody. So many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And if anyone would like to contact me, I'm across social media platforms, most of them, and all these will be on YouTube. And see you next time on The Writer's Mindset. Thank you so much, Edel.
Thank you. Bye.